But psychologically, what is our first solution is that we have to change your self-image. And how can we change the self-image? Self-image can be changed by abruptly knowing an information about ID and superego. Now I am going to show you a small video clip. And that video clip will be explaining about 3 people who are living with us. We were just kids. And after 5 years, after inception of the 5th year, we had 2 people born inside us. You'll be able to understand by watching this. In psychology, it's called as ID and superego. Now look at this. Let's imagine, this is you. And there are 2 people living inside you, my dear friends. Sorry, sir? That's 2. Onion. I'd also, the onion thing, I would like to connect. But that's definitely true. 2 people living inside us. Sigmund Freud, Dr. Sigmund Freud, psychology Sigmund Freud, Dr. Sigmund Freud came up with this concept called a psychoanalytic theory, and that gentleman says that each and every individual, after an inception of 5 years, has got 3 people inside him. One is ID, another one is ego, another one is superego. ID அப்படிங்கிறது வேற, superego வேற, நடுவுல இருக்கிற ego அப்படிங்கிறது தான் நீங்க. So, with the given assumption, this is you, and you've got 2 people living inside you. Now let me drive your attention towards this red image. And this red image, my dear friends, is called as ID. And this white image is called as superego. What are these 2 people's primary function? Let's see. This ID is a person who is always very restless. ரொம்ப ரெஸ்ட்லெஸ்ஸாவே இருக்கிறது தான் ஐடியோடைய வேலை. ஒரு விஷயத்தை உங்களால செய்ய முடியாதுன்னு உங்களை நினைக்க வைக்கிறது இந்த ஐடி தான். இப்போ உங்களுக்கு நல்லா தெரியும் இவர் யாரு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி. A person who is vividly making you feel that you cannot do something. Do you remember the first ever sales call that you made in your career? The first ever sales call நீங்க பண்ணும்போது, when you are meeting your first client, அந்த client meet பண்ணும்போது இந்த ஐடியோட ஆபரேஷன் அப்போ உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சுக்கும். ID is a person who says that you cannot do something. ID is a person who says that you are fit for nothing. உங்க சின்ன சின்ன வீக்னஸ் கூட பெருசா மேக்னிஃபை பண்ணி காமிக்கிறது தான் இந்த இமேஜோட வேலை. Right now he is living inside you. He is living inside me also. But நம்ம லைஃப்ல வந்து சக்சஸ்ஃபுல்லா எப்பெல்லாம் ஆயிருக்கும் அப்படின்னா, the moments when you are keeping this guy under control, you are successful. But there is another person. See, this person is the evil inside us. If I was one of our onion, this is the person who is self-deficient. Motivation. Motivation sir told that it is a motivation session. There are 2 types of motivation. One is sufficiency motivation and another one is deficiency motivation. Sometimes in high school, talent headmaster efficiency motivation. Sufficiency motivation. But you have been frequently facing failures in meeting up the clients, and when the client says no, when the client is not accepting the proposition that you are trying to give the clients, at the time that you are very much degraded, you feel so low. Deficiency motivation. 25 years on the field you rise up again like a phoenix. Sufficiency motivation. The sufficiency motivation is the white image. Deficiency motivation is the red image. So I'd like to introduce this superego, superhero. He's white in color, he's like the almighty inside you, and he is really a wonderful person. He says, no problem, just try. Even if you fail, no problem, just try. Okay? So God has created us in such a way that superego's voice will be like a whispery voice, and ID's voice will be like a loudly distant sound voice. But naturally, we will be more towards ID. Your children, your kids, if they are college students, please tell them this concept. If they are school students, you have to definitely sit them down and tell this concept. So my first and foremost lesson towards this auspicious program is to listen to your inner conversation first of all. No matter whatever the age is. There are many people who are at my father's age. There are many people who are at my uncle's age. And there are many people who are at my elder brother's age. I may not be, very much compatible enough to advise you, but this stands at least 35-40 years of research. When I did my PhD was in counseling psychology. And the counseling psychology, the PhD, I found first research in that. So, ID and superego. These 2 people, They try to be along with you always. They are with you all the time. Look at this. A typical example. This guy is facing his boss. A boss கிட்ட வந்து ஒரு பயங்கரமான காரசாரமான conversation. The boss is not liking what he has did. So the boss கிட்ட வந்து explain பண்ண try பண்ணா, sir, please give me another chance. Maybe this time I have committed a mistake. மறுபடியும் இது நடக்காம நான் பார்த்துக்கிறேன் அப்படின்னு அவன் explain பண்ணும்போது என்னுடைய face மாறதை நீங்க பார்க்குறீங்க. He's a normal person till now. Now the face is changed. Why? Because of the mesmerism of this idol. The inner conversation is poisoned by this man, stating that that guy, your boss, is speaking nonsense. This is what is the conversation. I mean, evil instincts. But at the same time, this particular person, you will never do the face for the career. You will never pass the ego, right? So these two people don't have any vivid conversation between themselves, but they try to drive out the conversation towards you, who is the social being. The moment when this person is mesmerizing, that person intrudes. No, David, you are not supposed to obey his words. He is your boss and he is like your father, and you are supposed to stand his obedient kinds of comments. Something else or other. So David is a nice person, he is a professional, and he is having a slight tennis match in his mind. But this guy is very meticulous, and he chooses to listen to superego. He listens to superego. And what does the superego say? The superego says, fine, you have committed a mistake. And the boss is speaking very unfair. But you can show through your talents. You can take another action, and you can really prove yourself very much justiceful and right. அப்படின்னு superego சொல்ற அந்த விஷயத்தை கேட்டு, he is narrowing down, and he apologizes to his boss, stating that, sir, please give me one more chance. Thanks for letting me explain. அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அவர்கிட்ட எந்த சண்டையும் போடாம, there is no any no conflict at that point of moment. He is very apologetic, and he says, he calls it for good, and he comes away. Now this is called as professional behavior. Under the professional behavior, பின்னாடி ஒரு பெரிய psychological interface இருக்கு. Now this guy, இது வேற யாரும் இல்ல, நம்ம எல்லாரும் தான். So we are always living with these two people, my dear friends. This person. ஒரு நாள் மார்னிங் எந்திரிச்ச உடனே நீங்க பயங்கரமா ஒரு மாதிரி டிஜெக்டடா ஃபீல் பண்ணிருப்பீங்க. That's because of ID's voices. Sometimes even during celebration times you will be feeling so dull. That's because of ID's voices. But in another thing, at some point of time, you would have pulled up. You would have pulled all the strings, and you would have really, come up with flying colors. That's because உங்களுக்கே தெரியாம இந்த கான்செப்ட் யூஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கீங்க. எப்படி listening to the real conversation, channeling out ID's words, and channeling off towards superego's words. So there is no say for all of simple. So this is my first psychological intervention technique. Listen to your inner conversation, and please be aware that there are two people, and always say yes to superego and say no to ID. So the girl comes and asks, Daddy, could you please give some time? And the person shouts at the girl. Look at the vivid picture. How many times I have told you not to come to my office when I'm busy? Just get out in another 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Maybe we will look into it. So he shouts, and the poor girl runs out of the room. But this guy is a rude father, but at the same time he has got this kind of a tenacity. And I should have behaved a little bit softly to my daughter. Instead of shouting at her, I should have behaved like that. So he has got a desired behavior, a desired changing behavior. Like he wanted to behave like this. That is, when the girl comes and asks, Daddy, could you please come and spend some time with me? He wanted to behave loudly like this. Maybe, just give me 10 minutes time, I'll finish this, and I will give you all the time. So this is the behavior that he desires. But I'm sorry, he looks very funny. In any case. So, that was number one behavior. Rude, shouting, and arrogant behavior. This was number two behavior. Now, let me introduce this psychological therapy called a swish pattern. And it is in the NLP techniques, neuro-linguistic programming techniques. Swish pattern is like a meditation, my dear friends. For this guy, it's the anger that is really making him troublesome. And for you, there is some sort of emotional weakness. Maybe shivering, fear, crying, getting angry, being jealous, being possessive, having the stage fear, fear of interview, fear of attending group discussion. Likewise, take any weakness, any emotional weakness that you have, and keep that particular weakness into your mind. Now let me demonstrate how you can do this swish pattern.
Now this guy has got two behaviors. Behavior A, the behavior you want to change. Behavior B, the behavior you want to inculcate. Keep the behavior you want to change on the red background in your mind. And keep the behavior that you want to inculcate on the green background in your mind. It's like a meditation, it requires enormous amount of practice, but maybe for the first 10 to 15 times, you might be finding it difficult, but after that, you can really change your behavior pattern. I have recently made an youngster stop his smoking by using this pattern. I have made a person stop becoming hysteric. He has got this hysteric behavior. When he gets angered, he will immediately get all the objects that are out of his reach and he will throw it on somebody else. So I wanted to make that particular change to happen and I employed this particular thing on him. So step number 1 is switch pattern. You got to close your eyes and you got to decide which particular weakness has to change. And imagine that the weak behavior is in the red background. And imagine the desired behavior that you want to inculcate in the green background. In the smoking example, the person, I have his own image. I want his own image of taking lots of cigarettes and puffing it all over. That image should be in the red background. And feeling very healthy without even a puff of a cigarette and feeling very, very strong, that image has to be in the green background. So step number 2 is you got to make sure and you got to visualize as if the green comes enlarging, and it should blast the red. This is called a switch pattern. You have to do it very vividly into your mind itself. Question, sir, I'm not able to concentrate in my mind. Fine. Very easy. Close your eyes and keep the bad behavior to be changed into your mind. I'm trying a lot, sir. Without my knowledge, all of a sudden tears break down. Fine. Imagine the picture of crying all the time and tears getting broken down in the red background. And imagine the kind of an image in which you are so strong, emotionally very much driven in green image. Okay? So you can imagine as if the green image is on the palm. And you can imagine as if the red image is into the mind. You can literally do like this. Physiology breeds psychology. Closing the eyes, and if you're literally doing like this, it means your mind will get the impression that this is the behavior I don't want, and this is the behavior I want. So in smoking example, the person feeling very healthy, that image is in his palm. And the person smoking a lot of cigarettes, that image is in the mind, in the red background. So if you're doing this for 10 to 15 times, you are directly sending the image to the subconscious mind. Coming back to the switch pattern, just sitting straight and closing the eyes and taking a particular behavior that you want to change and keep that particular behavior by visualizing as if it's in the red background and keeping the desired behavior as if it is in the green background. So when you do this, sir, this appears to be very clumsy to me. I cannot go and sit in a separate room and I cannot do it like this, keep on doing like this. People might be thinking very crazy. Fine. So if that's the case, just sit and see that the green image comes and blasts the red. And you have to do it for 15 times. The reason why it is called as a switch is you are switching from the red to green. That's why it is called a switch pattern. Okay? So the red image is the thing that you want to change. The green image is the thing that you want to have. So this switch pattern. Now, finish the first therapy. You have any questions? Frequently asked questions. Question number 1, sir, when can we do this? We should do in the morning and you shall do in the evening as well. But doing in the morning is very, very important. Frequently asked question number 2, sir, if let's say for example, I am using this for one weakness, how long can I use for one weakness? I got 2 weaknesses. Weakness number 1, I'm a short-tempered person. Weakness number 2, I got some fear. How long can I use? For one weakness, you have to use it for 1 full month. As the saying goes, a task, in order to get converted as a habit, it takes almost about 25 days. The rule of 21, you have heard about rule of 21 in psychology. It takes 21 days for a task to get habitualized into your pattern. So switch pattern will be working really well if you are really consistent on a particular task for the next 30 days or so. You got to be very clear about it. But Monday you are doing switch pattern for reducing your anger. Tuesday you are doing switch pattern for reducing your fear. Things will not work. You got to be very consistent and on a uniform basis towards one weakness. Do you have any questions apart from this? Try this. Just try this. Maybe the first couple of moments or in the first couple of occurrences, you will not be finding it so effective. But later, as time progresses, you are really going to have a wonderful kind of an impact. You can virtually change any weakness of yours. Starting from tiny weakness, like one of my friends' younger brother, he was having a very tiny kind of, a strange kind of a weakness. That boy was always having this kind of aversion towards noodles. Whenever his mom prepared noodles, he was having an aversion. The noodles are appearing not as a food for me, it is appearing like just threads that are very poisonous. That's what is the boy's condition. So noodles are naturally not a healthy food. So I told my friend, what is the big deal? Just leave it. I did not take noodles at all because it's basically not healthy. But my friend was very concerned. No, he has got this problem of attaching anything to something, something to anything. So what can I do? We employed the switch pattern for changing that aversion, changing that obscene. Like for example, one person was having a very big problem in terms of thinking about the future. You will take the person and you will make the person depressed. Ask the person to think about the future. The person was doing MSc Mathematics in one arts college and he was very much worried about his future. Whenever he thinks about the future, he will fall down fainted because he was not having any clue what to be done in the future. So we employed this for taking that. Likewise, I can show you plenty of examples. So just start doing this on an outlandish basis. But as things progress, as time progresses, you'll be becoming so much thorough in switch pattern. It's a very big exercise. Well, if you'd like to go for more authenticity about switch pattern, you can Google about switch pattern. You will have lots and lots of explanations in the net about it.
So
This is my first therapy. Yes,
how
ma'am.
many minutes we have to?
And it's just for almost about say 5 to 7 minutes. At the maximum 10 minutes.
At a time.
At a time. That's it. At a time. Because the moment you sit closing your eyes and the moment you condition your weakness and designing that in the red background, designing that in the green background, that itself will take 5 minutes. And then you are doing the switch. I always do this with the physical movement because that works vivid for me. So when I do this, I associate the green images on my palm and I associate the red image in my mind. When I do this, I'm able to do the
So the idea is that the subconscious mind is wide open for new information always. As I spoke earlier, the subconscious mind is hungry and your body is ready to move into action in accordance with what the subconscious mind is going to give as input. So you have heavy influences on the three things that you are seeing on the screen now: ideas, thoughts, images. The ideas that you receive, the thoughts that you are giving into your subconscious mind, the images that you are going to put into the subconscious mind. If you are controlling and filtering these three things, your subconscious mind is definitely going to get a new information. And once you give the new information, once you give the new ideas, new thoughts, new images, those new images, new thoughts, and new ideas are getting programmed into your subconscious mind. And the programmed things are converted into paradigms. So hereafter, be very much careful with what you are thinking, what you are saying to yourself, and what you are receiving in your mind. Because that's what is going to be into the paradigm. Because your paradigm is very important. So be very careful and use the C and F factor, control and filter factor, the thought energy and the images, and most importantly, the beliefs that you have and the ideas that you are instilling. Have these three things brand new from today onwards. So the brand new image is really going to make a transformation in your life.
So, as we are seeing, the chokehold of a person's performance is either the person's psychology or the person's lack of skill set. Now, when your mind comes up with a negative statement, I would like to give you some tools and techniques for handling the negative statement. So, the questions now will appear. I'm going to give you some questions. And by asking those questions perennially, whenever you're feeling so negative, you can come out of that negative attitude. Simple techniques. It's not a therapy, but this is some simple analogy questions that you can ask within yourself. The chokehold is either because of the psychology or because of the lack of skill set. Now, look at these two questions. Question number 1. Is that really true? Question number 2. Do you really have all the information to say that it is really true? When you have a challenging, attacking, negative kind of a thinking. For example, you have got a target to finish in the industry and you have got a challenge from one particular client and you are not able to convince that particular client. You are meeting the client perennially, but the client is not convinced and he is just not entering into your business spectrum. So, what happens is that your mind starts thinking, இந்த ஆளுகிட்ட வேலை ஆகாது போல இருக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு இதெல்லாம் முடிக்க முடியாது போல இருக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி உங்க மைண்ட் திங்க் பண்ணும்போது I wanted to ask these two questions. What do you think? I don't think this will be possible. அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறேன். அப்போ I wanted to ask this first question. What is the first question? Is that really true? நம்ம இப்படி நினைக்கிறது உண்மையா? And what is the second question? ஆமா உண்மை அப்படின்னு உங்க மைண்ட் சொன்னா அடுத்த கொஸ்டினுக்கு வாங்க. What kind of information you have to prove that this is true? இது சத்தியமா நடக்காது அப்படின்னு நீ சொல்றது உண்மையான்னு கேட்டதுக்கு நீ உண்மைன்னு சொல்ற. உண்மைன்னு நீ ப்ரூவ் பண்றதுக்கு உங்ககிட்ட என்னென்ன சாட்சிகள் இருக்கு? And when your mind thinks on this area, then you will understand that what you are having was nothing but an unspoken assumption. The unspoken assumption. When you are disempowered, you are accepting an unspoken assumption. Assumption அப்படினா யூகம். Unspoken அப்படினா தெரியாத யூகம். Assumption அப்படிங்கிறதே தப்பு தான். It's not accurate. So many times we get failed because of some set of unspoken assumptions. Do you agree or not? So many times. Take your life for example. I mean, discriminate your life as 3 or 4 sections. The first 10 years, the second 10 years, the third 10 years, fourth 10 years, or fifth 10 years. In all the 10 years, in the practice வந்து நம்ம யாரும் சொல்லி கொடுக்காம பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். என்னன்னு சொல்லி கேட்டா, we have never asked the question, is this really true? And we have never asked the question, what kind of information I have to prove that this is true? And we never have adjudged towards unspoken assumption. நம்ம கிட்ட எக்கச்சக்கமான unspoken assumption இருக்குங்கிறது நமக்கு தெரியவே தெரியாது. So many times, please understand that you have been into the looming around. உங்களை கட்டி போட்டுருக்கு இந்த unspoken assumption அப்படிங்கிறது. So the best way to escape the negative thinking is, my dear friends, ask these two questions. Is this negative thinking true? If it is true, what kind of information I have to say that it is true substantially? உங்க மைண்ட் இந்த சேனலை திங்க் பண்ணும்போது you will become strong. ஏன்னா அது போய் நிரூபணமாயிடும் and then you will be becoming strong. Condition பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு கண்டிஷனிங் அப்படிங்கிற கான்செப்ட்டுக்கு கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்களா? Have you ever heard about the word conditioning? கண்டிஷனிங் அப்படிங்கிறதுனா ஒரு விஷயத்தை வந்து தொடர்ந்து நம்ம பழக்கப்படுத்துறது. நம்ம சின்ன வயசுல இருந்து எக்கச்சக்கமான நெகட்டிவ் கண்டிஷனிங் அப்படிங்கிறதும் பண்ணியிருக்கோம், பாசிட்டிவ் கண்டிஷனிங் அப்படிங்கிறதும் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். Have you ever come across Pavlov's example? பெல் அடிச்சா கரெக்டாக பசிக்கும் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி. There is an experiment you might have learned in psychology. இவான் பாவ்லோவ்னு ஒரு சயின்டிஸ்ட் இருந்தார். எந்த டைமாக இருந்தாலும் பெல் ஒரு 10 தடவை அடிச்சா டாகுக்கு ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக பசிக்க ஆரம்பிச்சிடும் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி ஒரு எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்ட் வச்சு he mentioned. அவ்வளோ தூரம் ஏன் போகணும்? I myself will show you a documentary clip about conditioning. We'll come back to this. Conditioning அப்படின்னா என்னன்னு சொல்லி கேட்டீங்கன்னா, it's very simple. It is subjecting a particular concept into our mind and making ourselves so much believed. I'll show you. These are all my videos. Now I'll show you a simple example about a mouse. நம்ம எல்லாத்துக்கும் mouse அப்படிங்கிறத பத்தி தெரியும். Have you ever seen a mouse running away from cheese? மவுஸுக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்ச food item அப்படிங்கிறது cheese தான். But now you are going to see a mouse experiment. See, you are seeing this tiny mouse, and here is the mouse and here is the cheese. The mouse, when it is put up with the cheese, it automatically goes towards the cheese. ஒரு கேஜ்ல the mouse அடைச்சிருக்காங்க. Now the mouse is opened up with the cage, and the mouse is happily approaching towards the cheese. Okay, so the mouse is very much happy. It fondles with the cheese and it is having a nice time. Now, Hawthorne experiment அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்ட் என்னன்னு சொல்லி கேட்டா, ஒரு 12 தடவை அந்த மவுஸை மறுபடியும் வந்து அந்த என்ட்ரன்ஸ்ல வச்சு, when it tries to go into that particular cheese cage, mild shock treatment program. Look at this. A mild shock is given. உள்ள வரும்போது ஷாக் அடிக்கும், உள்ள வரும்போது ஷாக் அடிக்கும். So the mouse enters, it gets shocked, gets back. Enters, gets shocked, gets back. இது வந்து ஒரு 12 தடவை, வெறும் 12 தடவை, just 12 times this conditioning experiment is done. And now, my dear friends, the mouse is analyzing, and the shock treatment is stopped. In fact, it is switched off. Because the shock அடிக்காது. Now see the mouse's response. Now the cage is open, the mouse is free to go, there is no shock, but the mouse is hesitating. சரி கேஜ் விடுங்க, அந்த சீஸ் எடுத்து வெளியே வச்சா இந்த மவுஸ் போய் சாப்பிடணும்ல, ஆனா கண்டிஷனிங் பண்ணப்பட்டதுனால see what happens. சீஸை பார்த்து அந்த மவுஸ் தெரிச்சு ஓடிடும். This is called as conditioning. So many times நம்ம கிளைண்ட்ஸ் கிட்ட இவர் வந்து டெஃபினட்டா நம்மளுடைய பிசினஸ் ப்ரொபோசிஷன் எடுத்துக்க மாட்டாங்க. இவர்கிட்ட பேசி நம்மளால ஜெயிக்க முடியும், கண்டிப்பா முடியாது. இந்த மாதிரி அல்ல, அது 10 லட்சத்துக்கு மேல பிசினஸ் இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணா அது கண்டிப்பா லாஸ் தான், இல்ல இந்த இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் பிளானை விட இந்த இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் பிளான் கஸ்டமர் சொல்றாங்க. So all these are conditioned things. இது வந்து they are not gospel dictum truth. These are all the things that you conditioned yourselves. The only conditioning, negative conditioning that was made into the biggest glow called as your mind is only because of you. So in the conditioning அப்படிங்கிறது in a simple example, I mean there is another simple example of conditioning. Look at this. A professor is asking a student to stretch his hand. அவர் என்ன பண்றாரு, நீ ரெசிஸ்ட் பண்ணிக்கோப்பா, நான் அவருடைய கையை இப்படி கீழே அமுத்துவேன், நீ ரெசிஸ்ட் பண்ணு அப்படிங்கிறாரு. The boy is resisting. So he presses the first time, he is resisting. Presses the second time, he is resisting. Presses the third time, he is resisting. And fourth time, the faculty member intentionally he stops. அப்ப அந்த பையனுடைய கை பாருங்க என்ன ஆகுதுன்னு சொல்லிட்டு. So now என்ன ஆகும், கீழே போவார் சார், மேல வரும். ஏன்னா இவர் இப்படிதான் அமுத்துவாரு அப்படிங்கிறது அந்த பையனுக்கு தெரியறதுனால now what the boy does is he takes the hand up. See, do you understand? Simple example of conditioning. இதே மாதிரி தான் நம்ம லைஃப்ல ஃபேஸ் பண்ண ஃபெயிலியர்ஸ் எல்லாத்துலயும் கண்டிஷனிங் அப்படிங்கிறது ஏதோ ஒரு இடத்துல நம்ம பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். 35 இயர்ஸ்க்கு மேல நம்மளால சரியா யோசிக்க முடியாது. This is a conditioned thought. 45 இயர்ஸ்க்கு மேல புதுசான ஒரு வெஞ்சர் அப்படிங்கிறது நம்மளால ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ண முடியாது. Conditioned thought. சீனியர் சிட்டிசன்ஸ் கிட்ட பேசி நம்மளால ஜெயிக்கவே முடியாது. Conditioned thought. யங்ஸ்டர்ஸ் எல்லாருமே அப்படித்தான். அவங்ககிட்ட வந்து அவனுக்கு பாடி சித்தப்பம் சிவப்பம் சுத்திட்டு போன மட்டும் நம்மளால பேசி எல்லாம் வந்துட்டு ஒரு விஷயத்தை புரிய வைக்க முடியாது. Conditioned thought. All we have to do is break this conditioned thought. இதைத்தான் வந்து அந்த ஸ்லைட்ல நான் என்ன சொன்னேன், it's called as unspoken assumptions. So these are unspoken assumptions. Most of our failures contain plenty of unspoken assumptions. And my message is, கொஞ்சம் rationalize think பண்ணி அந்த unspoken assumptions எல்லாத்தையும் break பண்ணுங்கங்கறத நான் சொல்றேன். Simple. So now coming back, you got to be smart enough to find the unspoken assumption. And when you are asking these two questions, like is this true? And what are all the information that I have for proving that this is true? அப்படிங்கறத நீங்க கேட்கும்போது your unspoken assumption is finally breaking, and you become a rationalist person. செஞ்சு பார்க்கலாம். Even if we lose, we will be having some sort of learning அப்படிங்கிற அந்த paradigm வந்துருவீங்க, and there you come to the top 3% of the world-class business leaders. If you do that, the top 3% of world-class business leaders, they do one thing in common. What is that? They break all the unspoken assumptions and they try. They just try. Simple. As I'm saying, the second step. This unspoken assumption is limiting your growth. Your job is to break down the limitations that are holding you back. Right? Another 2 questions. There are 6 questions I would like to hand over to you. First 2 questions I put it in. The first question was, is this really true? And the second question was, what information do I have for making this as a tool? Look at the third question. What am I accepting that is controlling and limiting me? ஒரு வேலையை செய்யும்போது நான் வந்து ஒரு செட்பேக்கா இருக்கிறதுக்கு மெயின் காரணம், what is the one thing that is holding me back? 5 minutes. So, what is that one thing that is holding me back? And the next question is, from where I have started to accept these conditions? In the unspoken assumptions, நான் எப்ப இருந்து பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சேன்? When did I start all this? When I was a young stage, when I was in young stage, when I was in boyhood stage, when I was a child? So, this is the other question. And the last 2 set of questions that I want you to ask during your negative pattern of thinking is this. Last 2 questions. If this thought did not exist in my mind, how would I feel? In the unspoken assumption, எனக்குள்ள இல்லாம இருந்திருந்ததுன்னா நான் எப்படி ஃபீல் பண்றேன்? Second question is my favorite. Out of all the 6 questions, the second question is my favorite. What are 3 things you would go and do if you definitely know that you will not be failing? நீ கண்டிப்பா ஃபெயிலே ஆக மாட்ட அப்படின்னு உனக்கு வந்து ஒரு வரம் கிடைச்சதுன்னா நீ செய்ய போற 3 விஷயங்கள் இது. Because it is the failure stance that is pulling us back. So if you ask these 6 questions when you are having negative pattern, if possible, please write these 6 questions and put it as a whiteboard in your office cubicle. And every time when you are having negative patterns, please ask these 6 questions, and you'll be able to come across the negative pattern. So ID superego concept, swish pattern, and then these 6 questions. Now, I've got only 3.5 minutes left, and I would like to go for the end of the program. And the end of the program is nothing but a kind of a mentality. I would like to finish up with this mentality. It's called as Lions mentality. Maybe in the future, I will be talking about these therapies. There are therapies that are solo nasa, because of the want of time, we don't have the liberty to say this. So, I'll be definitely meeting you in the future, and then I will be giving all these therapies to you. Now, the final thing is the lion and the elephant story, and within this, I'll rest my case. Eagle is king of all the birds, and lion is king of all the animals. How do we know that the lion is the king? You might say, நான் சின்ன வயசுல moral science படிச்சேன், geography இதுல படிச்சேன், சுவாலஜில படிச்சேன்னு சொல்லலாம். விக்கிபீடியாலே லைனை பத்தி நீங்க சர்ச் பண்ணீங்கன்னா lion is assumed to be the king தான் இருக்குமே தவிர the lion is the king அப்படின்னு எங்கேயுமே எழுதிருக்க மாட்டாங்க. Because I have got facts. Lion is not the tallest animal in the jungle because giraffe is the tallest. Lion is not the largest animal in the jungle because the elephant is the largest. Lion is not the heaviest animal in the jungle because a rhino and an elephant is the heaviest. Lion is neither the smartest animal nor the intelligent animal. The smartest animal is a fox and intelligent animal is a king cobra. So லீடருக்கான எந்த தேவையுமே லைன் கிடையாது. Brim, the sound, the roaring sound. Fantastic answer, sir. Roaring sound. இந்த மாதிரி சின்ன சின்ன விஷயங்கள். Besides not having any of these facts, yet the lion is a king. Establishing attitude, the roaring sound. 3 great answers. I totally agree with you, 3 gentlemen. Yes, the lion, the confidence, the basic vested confidence the lion has. இப்போ இந்த 4 பேர் சொன்ன இந்த ஆன்சரை தான் இப்போ நான் சொல்ல போறேன். Comparing all these 4 answers from these gentlemen, I would like to give you this. This is called as Lion's mentality. The lion and elephant paradox அப்படின்னு சொல்லி transaction analysis psychology ஒரு சப்ஜெக்டாகவே இருக்கு. அதனால தான் நான் இதை உங்களுக்கு சொல்றேன். Why the lion is the king? I will show you. Look at this logic. An army of a sheep led by a lion will always defeat an army of lions led by a sheep. 2 teams, ஒரு டீம்ல 100 sheep and 1 lion as a leader. இன்னொரு டீம்ல 100 lions and 1 sheep as a leader. Which team will win? அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா இந்த டீம் தான். The team that contains 100 sheep with 1 leader as a lion. ஆனா அந்த பக்கம் 100 lions இருந்தாலும் லீடர் யாரு? Sheep. Right? Yeah, the leader makes a difference. So why lion is the king அப்படிங்கிறது இப்போ நம்ம பார்த்தோம். This is a simple scenario of a jungle where you've got this lion and an elephant. Okay, the lion looks into the elephant. Relaxed உட்காந்துருக்க அந்த lion elephant பார்த்தோம்னா நினைக்கலாம், possibly the lion can think like this. என்னன்னா, oh my God, he is the largest man, he is the heaviest man, and he can easily pounce on me. அதனால எப்படி கொஞ்சம் ஜாக்கிரதையா இருக்கலாம். Possible thinking number one. Practically, is it true or not? Elephant the power இருக்கா இல்லையா? கண்டிப்பா இருக்கு. Lion might think possibly the second thing. This guy has got his 2 tuskers and he can tear me apart. And this guy has got this heavy trunk, he can blow me apart. அதனால எப்படி கொஞ்சம் ஜாக்கிரதையா இருக்கலாம். Practically true. Possible thinking that the third thinking. இவனுக்கு மட்டும் மத பிரச்சனை காட்டே அடிச்சிருவான், அப்புறம் நான்லாம் ஏமாத்தலாம். அதனால எப்படி கொஞ்சம் அடக்கியே வாசிக்கும். This is what is the lion supposed to think when it looks into the elephant. But the lion has got a different kind of a paradox. இதெல்லாம் யோசிக்காது. The lion thinks only one word, and one word is my lunch is coming towards me. My lunch. I did not go for hunting. I did not send my wife for hunting today. The lunch is fast approaching me. இல்லைனா அவங்ககிட்ட 2 டஸ்கர்ஸ் இருக்கு, அந்த ட்ரங்க் அதெல்லாம் நடக்குது அப்புறம் பார்க்கலாம். இல்லைனா அவனுக்கு மலை பிடிச்சுன்னா மலை முடிக்கிட்ட அப்புறம் பார்க்கலாம். இல்லைனா அவன் பிகெஸ்ட் அனிமல், லார்ஜஸ்ட் அனிமல் அதெல்லாம் நடக்குது அப்புறம் பார்க்கலாம். I can eat this guy. I can really eat this guy. This tenacity. On the flip side of the coin, when the elephant looks into the lion, elephant can't think, my dear boy, stay there. If you come here, I'll kick you around. Elephant can't think. It has got the strength. Look, I got these 2 tuskers, sharp enough to tear you into pieces. ஜாக்கிரதையா தேவையில்லாம பில்டப் கொடுத்தாரு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி the lion can, I mean the elephant can think. But unfortunately, God has created the elephant in such a way that the moment it looks into the lion, 2 words, death. Today is my death day. And the eater is here. எலிஃபென்ட் பத்தி உங்களுக்கு தெரியல, ஒரு பம்ரடி நாய்க்குட்டியை கட்டி போடுற செயினை வந்து கார்ல கட்டி இந்த போடியத்துல வந்து நீங்க கட்டிட்டீங்கன்னா நல்லது. கட்டி போட முடியாது அப்படின்னு சொல்லி எலிஃபென்ட்டுக்கும் அனுமானுக்கும் யாரோ ஒருத்தர் வந்து அவங்க சத்தியை புரிய வச்சாதான் அவங்க 2 பேருமே ஆக்டிவ் ஆகும். ஸோ எலிஃபென்ட் இஸ் லைக் தட். வெஜிடேரியன் டெஃபிஷியன்சி மோட்டிவேஷன், லைன் சஃபிஷியன்சி மோட்டிவேஷன். வீக்னஸ் என்னன்னு எனக்கு தெரியாது, ஆனா என் ஸ்ட்ரென்த் என்னன்னு எனக்கு நல்லாவே தெரியும். ஐ கேன் ஈட் திஸ் கை. ஸோ 2 பேருக்கு ஒரே ஒரு டிஃபரன்ஸ் தான். என்ன டிஃபரன்ஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி கேட்டீங்கன்னா, the lion forgets all the weaknesses and remembers only the strengths. எப்போ? during critical situation. Critical situation அப்போ தன்னுடைய வீக்னஸ் எல்லாத்தையும் மறந்துட்டு ஸ்ட்ரென்த்தை மட்டும் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கிற ஒரு தனித்துவம். That's why the lion is the king, my dear friends. எலிஃபென்ட்டுக்கு அதே வந்து ஒரு சின்ன சேஞ்ச் என்னன்னா, the elephant forgets all the strengths and remembers only the weaknesses during critical situation. Critical situation வரும்போது தன்னுடைய பலங்கள் எல்லாத்தையும் மறந்து பலவீனங்களை மட்டும் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கிற ஒரு மனப்பக்குவம். 2 different species and they are living in the jungle. And the elephant is not the king, unfortunately, because of this. Lion is the king because of this. Strength mentality. So, the importance of lion's mentality என்னன்னு சொல்லி கேட்டீங்கன்னா, lion forgets all the weakness and remembers only the strength. Elephant forgets all the weakness and remembers only the strength. During critical situations, never forget the lion's mentality. நம்மளுடைய லைஃப்ல நமக்கு critical situation அப்படிங்கிறது வரும்போது, we are not supposed to forget the lion's mentality and focus only on your strengths and the reasons why you will be becoming successful. By using all these therapies and the 55 minutes and also the tools அப்படிங்கிறது யூஸ் பண்ணி try to focus only on your strength and become everlastingly successful people in this particular area. In studying that, I would like to rest my case and I pray God that you will always be lions and having the lions mentality. Thank you so much.
Dr. Manikandan. This was in fact the ovation which followed the applause followed was the loudest applause since morning I have heard.